state holiday, a city holiday that we will celebrate. We know it's a state holiday, but he wanted to confirm and declare this. And I thank him, and this is what he said. I'm just gonna read the bottom part. He said, "Now therefore, I, Joe Pitts, mayor of the city of Clarksville, do hereby proclaim August the 8th, 2021 as Emancipation Day, and invite all citizens to join in and take part in the activities that community groups and churches have planned for the community of Clarksville, Tennessee." Thank you, Mayor. Okay, we're gonna ask the first person to come up to receive their award, and we're gonna ask Miss Shannon Billings to come forth. I guess I need to read the first one. Let me read it. It says, presented to Shannon Billings, thank you for lending a helping hand for the Emancipation Day celebration held on August the 3rd of 2024. Okay, these were supposed to be given back then, but so much was going on. Our next recipient of this prestige award is Mr. James Botley. You should pass the baby on.
And 1, 2, 3, perfect.
Our last recipient of this prestige award is Mr. Charles Smith. Would you come forward, Mr. Smith?
And 1, 2, 3, perfect.
And we're gonna ask them to come back up and we get a total, photo group picture. Oh, yeah. Thank you, and this concludes the program.
All right, before we get to the Planning Commission report, we have a member of council has a birthday today, Councilman Jerry Haywood. So let's not sing, but just say happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
He's a child of the 30s today. All right. All right, next, first item on our agenda is the Planning Commission report. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir. And the first item is Ordinance 66, 2024-25.
Mayor, before I begin, perfect. In front of you today is a annual report completed by the Regional Planning Commission. For those of you who were here last year when the city adopted the comprehensive plan in May, it was part of it's actually in the comprehensive plan and our promise to you that annually in the first quarter, we will report out the progress we've made in the previous year on items that are involved in the comprehensive plan. This past year, we have made a lot of progress in some of the low-hanging fruit. We've also tackled some of the biggest lifts contained in the plan. And this report has a intro from myself, a discussion of the comprehensive plan and its progress through getting adopted. And then we call them milestones. So the first big milestone that's underway right now is the city and county zoning rewrite. There's some synopsis of that. We completed a housing needs assessment back in November. That's been received very well out there in the community. We've shared it with the local development community, realtors. We've been able to present on it in the Nashville region as well. And it's just a tool for folks who are interested in learning about our housing needs and going forward in our community here for the city and the county. We've also been making progress with neighborhood and community services of the city on land bank and land trust, and we'll be continuing that this year, as well as the formation of a community development corporation, which is also moving along well, also involving the neighborhood community services group. You can see on the back inside page the total amount of applications we saw last year, and again, this was our first attempt at it. I'd like to thank Silas Matcham in our office for laying it out and getting everyone to put their information in there. I'll be happy to answer any quick questions on it, but this will go live tomorrow digitally on our website, and we'll put it on Facebook so other people can download it and look at it.
Just a reminder, if you've got a question, raise your hand so I can
I got
see it. Councilman Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Who will be doing the studies for this zoning and rewrite and for the comprehensive plan for milestone for the city and county? Zoning will be doing this. Are we offering people to take a bid at this, or are we doing it ourselves, our people?
We went under contract back in November of last year with Housel Levine, the same folks who helped us with the comprehensive plan. It was put out for open bid. We had 7 responses. We narrowed it to 4 firms, then down to 2, and then ultimately chose them to work with us. We're in the early stages right now, but in the next month or 2, we're going to have a couple more public events and more information. We're doing an evaluation internally right now of the current codes for the city and the county.
It's good that the public will be involved in
Oh, yeah.
in understanding this. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we're ready for the first item on the Planning Commission report. Again, item A is ordinance 66. Mr. Tindall.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Planning Commission Case Z3 2025. This is the application of Bill Mace. It is 25.31 acres, currently zoned C4 Highway Interchange District and requesting to go to C2 General Commercial District. It is not an extension of the C2. It's a property fronting the north and west boundary of Interstate 24 right-of-way, south of Tylertown Road, approximately 760 feet east of Trenton Road and Tylertown Road intersection across from Roscommon Way. It's a large tract that is fairly level, currently prepared for development. This is in City Council Ward number 12. It's in the North Clarksville planning area. The applicant's statement of use is retail, office, and multifamily. There is no previous zoning history on this property. And here you can see the zoning in the area. The darkest blue is C5, closer to Tiny Town Road. That middle blue is all C4, which is Highway and Interchange Commercial District. And here's the property off of Tylertown Road, current widening project that's undergoing out there. There's currently an unfinished building on the front end of this property. There's Roscommon Way across from this property that empties out onto Tylertown. And another angle. Department comments from the gas and water. A possible lift station upgrade would be required. Sewer main extension would also be required. City Street Department, no traffic assessment was required due to the reduction of potential trips, and the city project to widen Tylertown Road is currently under construction. We did not receive any other comments or concerns. The school system provided their capacities. As you know, C2 can be multifamily and or commercial. Historic estimates, if this were built out as completely multifamily, 303 units. The future land use map designation, and I'll just pause there. Next month, we're gonna start introducing a third map for you to see that shows the future designations. So it's not, you're just not gonna see the zoning, you'll also see the future designation map. I think that'll help in the future in some of these areas. It's regional commercial. Staff does recommend disapproval of this. The request is not consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The property is located at Interstate Exit 1 and the C4 Highway Interchange District is the appropriate zoning classification for interstate exits. The future land use opinion map for this area designates this property as regional commercial. The land use designation is intended to accommodate larger commercial and employment centers that serve the greater population. Higher density residential, greater than 16 units per acre is encouraged. The proposed C2 commercial district does not align with the regional commercial designation. The scale of the C2 commercial district request does not align with the overall comprehensive plan goals to create a sustainable growth pattern and have a negative impact on the planning area as it relates to future regional commercial growth and the appropriate blend of future housing options. No adverse environmental issues were identified, and the Planning Commission also recommended disapproval.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Councilman Streetman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Tyndall, first of all, I know it shows the historic average to be 300 and, was it 8? 303, I apologize. But based on this being 25 acres, if they were able to, even with the detention area, they would still be able to get in excess based on the zoning of 400
Yes.
units there.
I believe 420, I think, was the number we came up with.
Yeah, because it's 25.31. I just did the quick and easy math instead of the decimal. Also, you had talked previously in one of the RPC meetings regarding this changing being in the middle of two other C4 properties. Can you talk a little bit about the benefit of the C4 properties being located in the interstate area and why you feel that it could be detrimental to have this change to residential right in the middle of those two?
That's a lot to unpack. I'll try
Sorry.
to keep it quick. This corner of the interstate exit has the last remaining larger parcels for any future development off of exit 1, whether it be any kind of commercial. Almost all the parcels to the south are smaller or have been built on already. To the west, there may be 1 or 2 smaller parcels to the west, but these are the remaining core parcels that have not been developed in this area. And if this were to go to, say, multifamily, and I know C2 can be either, but we need to assume one scenario sometimes, is it would break up 2 larger blocks of C4 with housing in the middle. It could deter certain users in the future. Though we're not showing you the map here, and we will next month, as I mentioned, this is regional commercial. The property just to the east here, we've actually identified as mixed residential. So if this request were coming on the parcel to the east, we would likely be in support of it because it would go from a single-family neighborhood to a multifamily neighborhood to commercial as a very good transition away from the interstate. We just feel that interjecting it in between the 2 larger parcels hurts the development of all 3 of them in the future.
Okay, and thank you for cleaning up my statement. I was already thinking I needed to clarify that I did say residential, and my comment on that, although it is C2, is based on their applicant statement of retail, office, and multifamily development. So that was entirely where my residential statement came from. So thank you very much, sir.
Councilman Lovato?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Tyndall, did the applicant say what the mix would be? I know it says retail, office space, and multifamily, but did he clarify what he was planning on?
Someone spoke, and they may speak next week at the public hearing, but our public hearing indicated that the parcel closest to Tylertown may be kept as commercial, but it's our anticipation that the bulk of the acreage to the south that doesn't front Tylertown would be residential.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pitts, if it's okay, I have questions for the street department, Mr. Smith.
Sure. Mr. Smith?
I don't know. Don't ask me tech questions.
Yeah. Mark, if you could
Yes.
give us a little more volume all the way around, including the,
Exactly.
Gotta get a little closer.
Got it.
okay. Councilman Lovato, you have the floor.
Can you hear me now?
Got you.
Yes.
Yes. Some of the concern, I know that the street department did not have comments on this, but if over 400 units go on that property, would that initiate another intersection there?
That's possible. Again, without saying at this stage, this is just a rezoning request. When it gets to the subsequent phase, where that site plan is detailed, there are going to be a whole lot more requirements from every one of the departments, including ours.
My other concern is the intersection of Tylertown and Trenton. If you are on Trenton coming towards the exits, there's no left turn signal there. Is there, what are the plans for that intersection as far as widening it and making it more accessible?
Sure, so the Trenton Road, or rather the Tylertown Road widening project, takes that from 2 lanes to 5 lanes. So that grows the entire intersection and adds additional capacity. Right now, you've got a dedicated left and kind of a fleur-de-lis where you can go left, straight, or right. You'll have, I believe, 2 dedicated lefts coming off of Tylertown at that point.
That's all the questions that I have for Mr. Smith. So I just want to make a statement. This is in my ward. I have a lot of concerns with this. Like the previous speakers have said, that's a lot of units potentially going on Tylertown. And even though Tylertown is getting widened, that's a lot of highway traffic for mostly residential. They're already suffering with semis traveling, excessive travelers commuting from Tylertown all the way up to Guthrie Highway. Over 400 units is not, Tylertown just cannot handle that. So I will be voting no next week, and I hope you all will too. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman Shekinab, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Tyndall, I think on Tuesday, you mentioned something about a C2 does not go higher than 16 acres, but here we're looking at 25.3. Is that correct?
The density of C2 allows up to 16 units per acre,
16
but
units.
there's no limit on how many acres you can rezone for C2.
Okay.
So take 25 times 16, that's the total number of townhouses or apartments they could build on this parcel.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Streetman.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I did want to add, especially after hearing from the ward representative, I know Mr. Tyndall pointed out that both the staff and the committee recommended disapproval. I did want to point out that the committee actually voted unanimously for disapproval on this item.
Okay, Councilman Chandler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I just got, I'm sitting here listening to the proposed plans for this, and my biggest question is, last month, the month before that, we keep hearing, well, you know, Clarksville needs these apartments put in. We're so far behind. We're at 97, 98%. There's a development just exactly like this on 374 across from the bowling alley. I mean, exactly. Retail in the front, apartments in the back. Councilwoman Lovato made a statement, which I agree with, and that is the tractor trailer trucks and stuff. But if we keep this at the way it's zoned now, and we do get some kind of big business industry in there, then that's going to create more of a problem with the big trucks and stuff. I don't know. I'm just confused in the fact that it doesn't fit here, but it'll fit over here. And we are, you know, we've been asked, this body here has been asked to rezone things just for the simple fact, and we're told, well, you know, again, we don't have enough rentals. And, you know, this one here is very confusing to me, and I just don't understand why it'll fit in one area. And like I said, out on 374 across from bowling alley, that could have been commercial property, zoned C4, but we went ahead and let them do the exact same thing. It's confusing. Thank you.
Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the difference to the previous speaker is that across from the bowling alley is a 5-lane highway. The speed limit is significantly higher for traffic to move versus Tylertown Road that's 2 lanes with no center turn lane and whatnot. I think that's the difference. It's not considered a main thoroughfare versus what 374 is.
Any more comment or question regarding this zoning case? All right, we're now ready for item B, ordinance 67, 2024-25. Mr. Tindall, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Planning Commission Case Z7, 2025, application of Rita Home Builders. This is exactly 1 acre. It is currently zoned R2, Single Family Residential District, and requesting to go to R4, Multiple Family Residential District. It is an extension of the R4 to the east and to the south. It's on north and west of Concord Drive. 2 residential lots with tall grass and a level building pad at the street level. The rear of the property drops off to a flood zone. This is in Council Ward number 2. This is in the Lafayette Peters Mill planning area. The applicant's statement is simply future building. Here's the current zoning map of the area. As I mentioned, it's R4 to the east and to the south, and R2 to the remainder of the neighborhood back there. And as I mentioned, there is a flood zone. So what you're looking at here, the dark blue is the floodway. That's the always floods. And then the lighter blue is the 100-year flood. So the 1% annually of flooding. And you can see where this property is encumbered in the back, but you can see the properties to the east that I would say the flooding recently pretty much followed this line. Those were built considerably before a lot of the development in the area. Here's the property on West Concord Drive. As you approach it, it's got a railing on the right behind the sidewalk, and then the property starts. It does have a bit of a curve right to left. And then looking back at the other apartments that are next door. And then this is across the street looking back at the 2 other apartment complexes on both sides of West Concord Drive. Department comments. Street Department said the lot is impacted by a FEMA flood zone. They must maintain existing drainage way easements from West Concord on Lot 2, construct an ADA compliant driveway with aprons, and connect them to the existing sidewalk. No other department comments or concerns regarding this. Historic estimates would be 12 units on this property. That may be a little high due to loss of some land in the back to the floodplain. The future land use map, these are the last 2 parcels in what we call the mixed residential neighborhood, which encourages small single-family to multifamily development. Staff recommends approval. The request is consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The R4 multifamily residential district aligns with the mixed residential neighborhood designation and serves as a logical extension of the existing R4 multifamily residential district. The Lafayette Peters Mill general recommendation encourages a desirable mix of affordable housing throughout the area. Recent heavy rains and flooding have heightened awareness of the flooding potential with the mapped FEMA flood zone in the area. While the rear portion of these 2 parcels falls within the floodplain, there remains adequate buildable area unaffected by these encumbrances. Engineering data will be required before development to ensure that no adverse impacts to surrounding properties or the conditions of the floodway. Planning Commission also recommended approval.
All right, thank you. Councilman McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a slide deck that I passed out, and IT is going to display it. I'll try to give the similar comments that I gave at the Planning Commission meeting on Tuesday. Prior to February 15th, 2025, there was no reason for me to be against this zoning case, none whatsoever. But on February 15th, houses on both sides of that drainage ditch and 3 apartment complexes that displaced 66 families flooded that had never flooded before. And I'm not talking about backyards, fences, sheds. I'm talking about inside their living spaces. Would you please go to the 3rd slide? So I'm not an engineer, but I did draw some lines on the map that the Planning Commission had in the packet of where the drainage water comes from in this area. If you start at Dover Road, anything west travels all the way through the ward, and the flood area that's a designated wetland, and Donna Drive also connects to it, and it all chokes at this point here. So the water travels from all directions, comes along that drainage ditch between Kirby and Concord and goes under Fort Campbell Boulevard and then floods Councilman Chandler's ward. I'm not saying no forever. I just would prefer that we either keep it the current zoning of R2, or we wait and maybe visit again the multifamily residential. A representative from the builders company did email us today with pictures of these parcels after the flood. Well, I looked at the timestamp pictures that I took of that area and the weather, and those pictures weren't probably taken until the 19th, because when Governor Lee was here on the 18th, it was clear there's no snow on the ground, and all those pictures had snow in them. So that gave time for some of the water in that area to recede, but the houses on Kirby still had water inside their living spaces. They're still, right now, still tearing out and trying to rebuild, not knowing if it's gonna happen again. Last year, we had a very similar zone case over by Fire Station 6 off of Ashbury, where there are some houses, some parcels on a higher level of that subdivision that the water from there floods down into the sinkhole at the end of Shawnee Terrace. And that floods every time there's a rain event. And I spoke to, could we please just pump the brakes again to try to figure out where water's going and where it's coming from and where it can go. And this body, I know we have some new council members, but we voted to disapprove for that reason. The concern that I have is not only for the people that might live there once these are done, but where that water at the higher level is going to go once there's structures built there. It's going to go to the 3 apartment complexes next door that had to be fire rescued in rescue boats from their apartment complexes, and the people that live on the other side of the drainage ditch. And even the 2 most adjacent single-family residential houses had water in their living areas this time. There was a petition that was passed out at the Planning Commission meeting, and I thought I emailed it to the clerk earlier, but it has over 100 signatures of people who live on that drainage ditch that are asking, please just keep it R2, and hopefully the governor's going to approve us for some funds so we can try and figure this out. But I'm not saying no forever. I'm just asking for no now. And like I said before February 15th, I met with the developer. It made sense to me, R4 next door, nice buffer between the single family residential house, but I cannot get the images of the people as I'm standing in their flooded houses with them, looking at everything that they lost, personal belongings, and not knowing how they're gonna pay to put walls and floors back in, and temporary housing's running out and all that. It's not responsible for us to try to say, okay, well, we're gonna put more units there that can potentially take water down to your homes. I just don't think that's responsible of us for right now. So I please ask that you vote no. Thank you.
Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. My concern, I've spoken with the neighbor out there, that Dan Fuqua, however he says.
Fucella.
Yeah. And I've known him for several years, and right now he has a buffer between him and those apartments there. And if we take this lot and make it apartments, then he's gonna be living right next to those. And wondering what kind of buffer would they be required to have in between the apartments, some kind of wall, fencing, or what might be required to be there.
So in our zoning ordinance, when you go from an R4 use to R2 use, there is a certain distance of plantings. Fencing could be an option, but there is a buffer required between those 2 uses.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Streetman?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to say thank you to the ward representative for the area. I thought you did a great job in your presentation, both tonight as well as at the RPC meeting, and I appreciate what you have prepared for us. I would ask, because I know it appears as these are individual slides, would it be possible for you to share that presentation with the city clerk so that she could get that information out to us? I'd love to be able to kind of zoom in on these just a little bit more than I can on the paper.
Sure. We could ask IT also if he would just flip through them. There's pictures of standing water in people's homes from the 15th through the 16th. So this is Kirby Drive. This is the opposite side of the drainage ditch from where these parcels are. Next slide, please. So that's a house before the flooding, and then that's the weekend of the 15th and 16th of February. Inside living spaces of houses. That's after a tear out. They still don't know how they're going to pay to get the walls put back in. So these houses are all opposite of where these parcels are, at a much lower level topography-wise. This is the apartment complex where Clarksville Fire Rescue had to rescue boat people out, 66 displaced families. That's looking back at those apartments. This is Mr. Frucella's basement that's finished. But yeah, the clerk does have these. She actually made the copies for me. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. And then also, the council person was one of 3 people that spoke at the RPC against this rezoning. And one of them also spoke in great detail about the S-curve there, which you'll notice this is located right in the S-curve. That was something else that I really paid a lot of attention to. I would anticipate they'll be here as well next week to speak on this. But they went through a list of accidents that had happened right in that area. And one of the things I asked the street department, and of course it's no different than the answer we received earlier, those things will be addressed and dealt with at a site plan level. However, I see no other way than have an entrance from this area going directly into the access, going directly into that S-curve, and that does create some concerns for me as well. So I did just want to bring both of those to the forefront. This was one that, yes, while it was approved, there were 2 of us that voted against the approval for this. So this one was a 4-2 vote from the Regional Planning Commission Committee. Thank you.
Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you to the previous speaker for mentioning Mr. Hood's comments. I actually have those. He's a tennis coach at Rossview, so he couldn't be here today to watch, but hopefully he'll be speaking next week. He did send you all an email, but some of the accidents that have occurred on the S-curve, and he's the second house over from this parcel. So there's the 2 parcels, Mr. Frucella and then Mr. Hood. So a teenager was clipped by a car while walking on the sidewalk, the newly constructed city sidewalk, on his way to his grandmother's house. Fire hydrants have been run over and the city had to replace and cause no water to the entire neighborhood for over 8 hours. A truck ran over the curb and got stuck in the drainage ditch that was on my previous map. 2 people were arrested after reckless driving, and tow trucks had to be called to pull their cars out of yards at 175 and 177 West Concord. Mr. Curtis's fence had been run over multiple times, and he's at 177 West Concord. Twice cars have run over the sidewalk and destroyed the guardrail, the city infrastructure that's protecting pedestrians from falling into the culvert. And that has had to be replaced multiple times. Right now there's a temporary snow fence up. And then 5 times Mr. Frucella's, in recent history, his mailbox has been taken down. So they're recording 14 total accidents at that curve. And to give you context, Fort Campbell Boulevard is right there. The intersection is Fort Campbell Boulevard and West Concord. You have Dodge's store on one side and you have Walgreens on the other. And we all have cut-throughs in our wards. This is the cut-through to get to Lafayette Road, and then eventually cut through the Donna Drive area to get to Dover Road. And nobody pays attention to the 20-mile-an-hour speed. And a lot of it is, I think that right now there are overgrown foliage in the actual ditch, which is good because it soaks the water up, but your sight distance coming around that corner, that curve, especially if you're going 35 instead of 20, is very minimal. Thank you.
Councilman Lovato.
Thank you. Mr. Tyndall, can you go back to the slide that shows where the 100-year flood zone is?
Sure.
Okay, so on this one, it is my understanding.
I'm sorry, sir. Sir. Go ahead, Councilman Lovato.
It's my understanding that the February 15th flood was, it actually came up past those lines. Do you know how far up into this property that flood came?
I do not, and that February flood was more than a 100-year flood, but less than a 200-year flood, so somewhere in that range with the amount of rain we had.
Can we ask David Smith if he knows?
Sure, Mr. Smith? Councilman Lovato.
With the February flood, on this map, do you know how far the water came up? Because it came past those lines.
It did.
So, do you know how far? Like, can you show me?
I can share that. I can get the
You
image
can
shared
share.
out, yeah.
Because here's my concern, and I appreciate the councilperson from Ward 2 giving grace to the developer and saying, you know, no, but maybe in the future. But there's no solution for a 100-year flood that has been shared with us.
Those are FEMA 100-year floods. So
Yeah.
those aren't local 100-year floods. Those are mapped by FEMA, Big Brother FEMA.
So my concern and my question is really a rhetorical one. Is it appropriate to put any houses on this property when we know that it's a 100-year flood zone? We know that it's going to collect water. We know that those lines are extending. What are we doing to future residents that might be living in the homes that could potentially go there? So again, I appreciate the member from Ward 2 saying, you know, maybe in the future. I'm a no now, I'm probably a no forever, just because of the 100-year flood zone. That's all I have for you.
Thank you. Councilman Chandler.
Thank you, Mayor. Mine's gonna be real quick. I spent the biggest part of yesterday afternoon in my ward near this area here. There's a spot over there that's probably 4 to 5 acres that still has waist-deep water. And it all funneled, like Councilwoman McLaughlin said, it all funneled from this area here. She's done her homework on that. And folks, you know, there's still water. It hadn't rained in how long? And there's waist-deep water on 4 or 5 acres. And I just don't think we'd be very good stewards of the citizens of this city if we kept on and kept on and kept on looking at things that we know. Now, I could care less about FEMA's 100-year flood plan. Since 2015, we've had about 5 floods. And it's just, I agree with Councilwoman Lovato. I just can't see ever building on this piece of property. Just because you got dirt there doesn't mean it's appropriate for a building to go there. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Brown. Oh, I'm sorry. Thought you wanted to be recognized. Councilman Smith, you're just helping me find people.
Thank you. I have a question for,
Mr. Smith?
Smith. Mr. Smith, I just have a simple question.
Yes.
Have we had time to identify the reason for the flood in that area? Does it have anything to do with the sewage or the land use or how the house was built, or it's just?
No, we're partnering with the National Weather Service and everything. We're tracking. And we shared some information that, and I know it's a little bit dated at this point, but as of that point in February, we had received between 200% and 300% more rain than what Clarksville sees on average calendar year to date, just in those first couple months. So we are seeing obviously a significant uptick in the amount of water that we're receiving. So it's not directly related to any building project here or there. It's just the amount of water that we're just not accustomed to, and our system's not designed to handle.
And so, thank you for that. How do we get the water out? Do we have pumps put over there to pump it out?
No, nature helps us a ton with this one. All of this drains to the Ashbury Basin. There is a large sinkhole that's just below the previous Fire Station 6. You've been through the area, you've seen how much water that area takes. That's all City of Clarksville property, that basin, and it takes a tremendous volume, and it kind of drains like a bathtub does. If you go down there, you can see it actually drain the
So
water.
do we have enough sewage drains in the area?
Oh, I can't speak to the sewage. I would have to be.
You don't know?
Yeah,
And do we keep them clean? We do keep our sewage pretty clean, don't we?
I think
Cause
Mark does a
some-
great, I think Castle does a great job with sewer.
Do we keep our sewers pretty clean? Because I had a lady to come up to me in the store the other day, and she gave me some pictures to give you all, and she said she's already given them to the mayor. And, it's a housing area that flooded over there as well. I
Sure.
can't remember the name of the street, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I can give it to you though. And, she said they came over and pumped it out and cleaned the sewages, so that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. Of course, anytime we flood, we pick up any of the trash and street, anything that's in the yard and the road, all of that collects, and it can look pretty bad. Can discolor the water and all those sorts of things, so I can't speak to the sewer, though.
So what we gonna do in the future? Cause we know that it keeps flooding. I just got another call from, those people in, Woodstock. That when we had that last rain, that it was stacking up again in
Sure.
this lady's backyard. She sent me a copy of the pictures. So what are we doing, to prevent further flooding when it rains, beyond what we can handle?
Well, let me just say, we're studying that
we're
area.
studying it
Yeah,
now?
if we're gonna scratch around, we gotta get it right. We
That's
can't make
right.
it worse.
That's right. Okay, as long as we study, that's all right with me.
All right.
And research.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other comment or question regarding this one?
Mayor, one other comment on this one for city council. As I mentioned, this is in a mixed residential neighborhood. The R2 or the R4 are both appropriate in that zone, just so you're aware. So R4 on the high end, R2 on the low end.
Okay, now we're ready for item C, ordinance 68, 2024-25. Mr. Tindall.
All right, this is Planning Commission Case Z9, 2025, application of Hunter Wynn and Jake Welsh. This is 3 lots totaling 2.17 acres. It's currently zoned R1, Single Family Residential District, and they wish to go to R2A, Single Family Residential District. It is not an extension of the R2A. The property is located south of Sladen Circle. There is existing 3 residential lots that have recently been cleared. This is in Council Ward number 7. This is in the South Clarksville planning area. The applicant's statement is to go from 3 lots to 4. There is no other zoning history on this plan. And there's the zoning of the area. You can see that the predominant use of the neighborhood is R1 with R4 to the north and C5 and Ag across the street. Here's the property down at the corner. Here's another picture. The properties go back, you see the property drops off and then goes back up a hill. The properties go back to about where that drop off is before it goes back up to the hill. Looking down Sladen Circle to the left there. And it's a little hard to see. There is, and we'll discuss this in a second, there's some pipe work and a head wall that has been improved out there. There's a city drainage pipe that empties on these properties that goes back to that ditch, which eventually goes out to the Cumberland River. These properties are not encumbered by floodplain. It is just to the west. I think you all remember a zoning case a month or 2 ago on the corner down there that did have some floodplain on it. So this is really close to that case over there. Gas and Water said possible water main upgrades would be needed. Street Department, sidewalks would be required. Ensure that drainage easements are maintained throughout the properties. It has recently come to their attention that land disturbance and stormwater alterations on the site requiring a grading permit have been made without authorization or inspection, and a stop work order has been issued. So the applicant has gone ahead and extended the pipe that's out there without consulting with the street department first. Regardless of the zoning outcome, they will still have to address that with the street department. No other department comments regarding this. Applicant statement is this would be for 4 lots. We think the historical estimate could be up to 6. It's in a corner and in a curve, which sometimes skews the lot sizes and the lot widths, but based on the acreage, up to 6. It's in the suburban neighborhood, future land use designation. Staff recommends disapproval. The request is not consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. This proposal is internal to an established R1 single-family subdivision. Increase in residential density is most appropriate around the outer edges of the existing neighborhoods or as a transition or a buffer to more intense uses. Residential zone changes internal to a existing subdivision should be more gradual in nature. The proposed zone change from R1 to R2A would reduce the minimum lot size from 15,000 square feet to 5,000 square feet, and the lot width from 90 feet to 40 feet. This would not be consistent with the overall development pattern internal to this subdivision. The developer must coordinate with the street department to resolve matters related to grading and drainage, and the planning commission also recommended disapproval.
Thank you. Councilman Holloman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. So it's not so much a question for Mr. Tyndall, just kind of a statement. This is a R2A in the middle of that C of R1. This is like the zoning creep. So if we were to approve this, and then you see more R2A in other areas, the residents that live in the area, including myself, we're highly against it, and I just also want to say, like, I appreciate y'all voting no on this one. I think it's the right decision. Thank you.
Councilman Streetman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Tyndall, you know I voted against, I think I made the motion against this, and I, of course, voted against this, and I, too, thought it was much too dramatic of a jump going from R1 to R2A. Just as the ward representative for this area pointed out, you were looking at a C of R1. They talked about there being, I think the applicant talked about there being some issues with setbacks, and that was one of the reasons they were asking for this zoning. Is there any other zoning that you believe that would work between R1 and R2A? Or, I mean, do you have the belief that R1 is the proper zoning for the area?
Because of that pipe I mentioned, so they need to shift some lot lines so that that pipe isn't through a building lot, but it could be maybe along a property line. That's one of the reasons they need to shift property lines and to get an extra lot as the developer has asked for. We have asked them for a sketch of what their ultimate goal is, and we would have tried to help them with it, but I'm not a surveyor or engineer. We review their work. Sometimes they can get pretty creative, but we have asked to see what does 4 lots look like? Can you get 5 lots? And we've not seen that from them. So again, we have to assume based on historic estimates, somewhere between 4 and 6 lots out here. We told them we would work with them if they needed to. They could possibly plat a 4th lot with the R1 right now, but they may need some variances, and we told them we would help support them if they need to, maybe a side yard variance from that pipe, if they had to move that. But I have no other information to share on this, and we've been scratching our heads a little bit. The other half of your question, if this were to come to say R1A, you may have seen a planning commission approval. We did not discuss that, but usually when you go maybe one zone different, and again, 90 feet, you're going down to 80 feet. It's really a minor change that I don't think it would change the character of the neighborhood. When you go from 90 to 50, a very different change.
Yes, sir, and it was referenced in the formal meeting that we had the other day in regard to, because I think one of the commissioners asked that question, could they come forward with the variances so that they were able to do what they were trying to do without changing the overall zoning. So, all right, thank you, sir.
Councilman Haywood, you're recognized.
So I'm not going to beat a dead horse with the zoning. It seems like everyone's on the same page. My question was the pipe that you were talking about that they had messed with or did something with. Did they break a code or anything like that to where they could get fined with it?
I don't know that answer, but they do need to get a grading permit, and
Okay.
I don't know the status. That would be with the street department.
Okay.
I don't know what the penalty for commencing work without a permit is.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith. Councilman Haywood.
Do you know if it is like would it be a code violation that they committed? Was it a city pipe or something? My main question would be, is it something that we could look at for future if they didn't commit a code violation that we could look at as a council to say, hey, if you start, you got a brilliant idea, you want to rezone something, you haven't had it rezoned, but you start the work, you're starting to mess with things that you shouldn't be messing with. Should we start looking at, okay, now you can look at a fine for start doing that? So was it a possible code violation, or was it a code violation?
It is a code violation,
Okay.
yeah. So the stormwater ordinance has to be followed in this
Okay.
circumstance, and they started work without a permit, so we did a stop work order, which is kind of a notice of violation. You're working without a permit, brought to their attention. They stopped work immediately. Had they not stopped work, we could have escalated and brought it through the municipal court system and so
Okay.
on.
Okay. All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councilman Marquis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so this is for Mr. Tyndall. On the applicant statement, it says going from 3 lots to 4. Is this actually 3 lots or is this 1? Because the way the picture's highlighted, it looks like 1.
Yes, and if you, you can see the lots very faintly in there. There's, as you work from right to left, there's a smaller lot, and then it's kind of at an angle right by the word R1. So
So technically, they can build 3
you can build
houses
3
currently.
houses right now, as is by right.
Okay, so it would go from 3 to the potential of 6 at the highest level if this was.
It's got a little bit of grade and it's in a corner. So
Yeah.
sometimes that makes calculations a little difficult, but I would say between 4 and 6 that the
Okay.
R2A would support.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment or question regarding this request? All right, we're now ready for item D, ordinance 69, 2024-25. Mr. Tyndall.
All right, this is Planning Commission case Z10, 2025, application of Hunter Wynn. This is 2.9 acres, currently zoned R1A, single-family residential, and requesting to go to C2, general commercial district. It is not an extension of the zoning classification. In fact, it actually is an extension. I apologize for that. Across the street, there is C2 to the north. It's a parcel fronting Tiny Town Road, south of Tiny Town and Pembroke Road intersection. It's a parcel that currently sits lower than the adjoining right-of-way and is being graded. This one does have a permit. This is in Council Ward number 1. This is in the North Clarksville planning area. The applicant did not provide a statement, but part of this deals with having to get a liquor license and have an appropriately zoned parcel. All right, Planning Commission deferred this last month. This is another parcel that was impacted by the floods, and again, you can see some ice and snow still on the ground here after the flood. About half this parcel is encumbered to the west side. You're looking east right now. The airport is at your back. They are currently grading. They need to bring the site up a few more feet on the east side and do an injection well where you see the standing water. So this is a property in progress, we'll say. There was significantly more water during the flooding. I will not hold that against them because they were in the middle of grading at the time, so it kind of acted like a bathtub out there. They had water halfway up the track hose tracks that you see sitting there. Let me go to this one here. So there's the intersection of Pembroke Road. This parcel really can only be accessed at the intersection there, and we'll talk about what a private fourth leg to the light is. And this is looking from the pad to the airport going west, Outlaw Fields to your left. All right. Gas and water, no gravity sewer would be available in the area. They'd have to extend it. Street Department. A traffic assessment was required per the traffic study guidelines. It was reviewed and accepted. No negative impacts were identified. Development would likely have to modify the existing traffic signal at Pembroke at the time of site plan development. Access would be limited and controlled by the access ordinance. A sinkhole impacts a significant portion of the property. The current drainage at the sinkhole is insufficient and an injection well will be needed as the area develops. In continuing with that, in drainage comments, a sinkhole impacts a significant portion of the property and the current drainage is insufficient. No other comments or concerns at this time. Though they've indicated it's for commercial purposes, again, C2 could have a historic estimate of 34 units on this parcel. It is in the North Clarksville planning area. The future land use for this intersection is commercial industrial hybrid due to its proximity to the airport. Staff recommends disapproval. The request is not consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. The proposed C2 general commercial district does not fully align with the adopted future land use opinion map for commercial industrial hybrid uses. I'll sidebar there, that's more of a C5 M1 type of a use that would comply with that. Rezoning to a more intense commercial use introduces the potential to add a fourth leg to the existing traffic signal, possibly reducing the efficiency of the intersection by increasing signal length and delays for all users. Rezoning to a more intense use should be in alignment with the commercial industrial hybrid land use designation and combined and/or connected to the neighboring parcels to the east to provide an opportunity for a more appropriate driveway access, such as a shared driveway or a travel easement. The developer must coordinate with the street department to resolve matters related to grading and drainage. Per Clarksville Street Department, a sinkhole impacts a significant portion of the property. Staff recommended disapproval. The Planning Commission recommended approval based on the fact that C2 is in the area and it is a commercial intersection.
Thank you. Councilman Streetman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Tyndall, you have airport zoning on both sides of this. What can be built in the airport zoning?
That is a legacy zone that does not exist anymore, so it is those homes, everything to the east are existing single-family homes that are legal non-conforming, and again, the airport, which is exempt from zoning as a government agency, is its own property.
Okay. Also, I know you referenced the private access, or so to speak, private access, adding a fourth leg to the light there, but in my opinion, that's a lot safer to have a commercial property exiting there to a light than having commercial access, where you have people turning left and right in front of oncoming traffic, whereas if they have an access point there, they're coming in and out at a much safer area. And I know the applicant already stated in the meeting on Tuesday at the RPC that they are already in talks with another one of the properties along there that would be beside it to where they could actually have a commercial area there. So it would be more than one business that could potentially be located along there. And again, to me, that's a lot safer than it is to have it just right up the road where we already see C2. Also, as you can see on here and was mentioned, you do have C2 right across the street. So it's definitely fitting within the area. This was something that, even though it was recommended for disapproval from the staff, as was mentioned, it was recommended for approval from the committee, and it was actually a 5-1 vote. For me, this is a better zoning change than would be for an M1, because although I don't think you said it tonight, but you said in previous meetings you'd think it'd be better if you had something like self-storage along there. I don't know that the neighbors that are living right there would want an M1 zoning right behind their home. Whereas, and we all did receive the email from Mr. Tyndall that gives us the easy lookup of being able to see exactly what can go into M1. And Mr. Tyndall, I thank you for getting that to the council. But you can look on there at all the different things that could go in M1 zoning, as opposed to if you had the C2 there, for them to be able to walk to different things that could be there for that neighborhood right there. So and as I said, others on the Regional Planning Commission were all supportive of this, and I'll still be supportive of it come Thursday night when we vote for this.
Councilman Shekinah, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, Mr. Tyndall, can you go back to the slide where you're showing the grade and then the houses that sit behind this property? Yes. So you said they're gonna raise the elevation. How much are they gonna raise the elevation, and where that water's gonna go when they raise it? Is it going towards those houses that already sits back there?
So the neighborhood, you're looking west right here. So the drainage where you see that berm, that's the limit of the drainage. So from the berm towards the camera, that is the detention basin. It's just not operating right now because the injection well hasn't been finished. That should drain like the bathtub that Mr. Smith referenced earlier. Where you see the track go over there, that needs to be raised about another 1 to 2 feet to get higher. There was a little standing water still over there, but the berm will be brought down. It'll be graded out so that drains into the basin, into eventually the sinkhole. Okay. We'll cover that at site review. They're just starting some grading work ahead of time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Shekinah, I'm sorry, you just spoke. Councilman Zacharias, I was looking right at you.
Thank you, Mayor. So a reference was made to the neighbors that back up on to this property. Hi, here I am. No, M1 wouldn't be great because, no, that's my neighborhood. That's what I'm talking about. I'm very familiar with this area. Mr. Tyndall, you had mentioned earlier that sometimes you have to make assumptions of what is going to go somewhere, and I had made assumptions based on the C2 zoning request and the absence of an applicant's statement for planned use. Sounds like you've got a little bit more insight than I do. Is there another commercial, purely commercial zoning that the applicant's intended use would fit within?
C5 or C2
Well, I don't like that.
for liquor stores.
All right. I'll have some more questions for the applicant next week. Thank you.
All right, any more comment or question? Oh, Councilman Smith, I'm sorry, you're recognized.
Mr. Tindall, I heard you say that the staff disapproved this, is that correct?
That's correct.
But it shows approval on here, on both. It says approval for the staff and approval for RPC.
On your agenda.
What's wrong?
It's
So you have
item-
the original, there was a correction made yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so there was a correction made?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, I put it on, thank you.
All right, any more comment or question regarding this zoning case? We're ready for item E, ordinance 72, 2024-25. Mr. Tyndall.
Okay, this is Planning Commission Case Z16, 2025. Application of F&M Bank. Agent is William Ray. This is 7.5 acres, currently zoned M3, which is another one of those legacy zones from over 15, 16 years ago. The M3 was pulled out of the zoning ordinance. M3, as you know, those of you who know this property, this was associated with the train manufacturing facility, and M3 was basically a planned industrial area. So that's what it is now. They're requesting to go to C5 Highway and Arterial Commercial District. It is an extension of C5 out there on Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. The property is off Old Russellville Pike and Stone Container Drive. This is in Council Ward number 11. It's an existing industrial warehouse facility. It's in the St. Bethlehem planning area. The applicant's statement is planning to operate a used vehicle dealership and a vintage motorcycle museum on the property. There's a large property, and then you can still see what Train owns there in the black is the M3, and then the C5 parcels that dominate the Wilma Rudolph frontage all around it. There's the property in question. I'm sure everyone has driven past this multiple times. That's coming off Stone Container Drive.
Nice road.
A little further up, yes. Looks like a recently completed job. Looking back to Old Russellville Pike behind the Ultra Bank. A little closer, and then up towards the property, subject properties on the left. Department comments and concerns. A traffic assessment was required and submitted and accepted by the street department. No other department comments or concerns. The impact would be just removal of industrial development in replacement of commercial development. No housing with this one. The staff recommended approval. We had to make a recommendation on the floor based on the timing of the traffic study, but it is consistent with both the area plan and the comprehensive plan, and the Planning Commission also recommended approval.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Streetman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be quick. Just want to clarify that mainly for the public as well as for the council members, but especially the public, this is an application of F&M Bank. Yes, I formerly worked for that, but I think many in the public think I still do. So I just wanted everyone to be aware that I do not still work there, and I am able to vote on this item.
Councilman Shekinah, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the rest of the council and the public, this is a good fit for Ward 11. Down, over in this area, we have apartments further back on Old Russellville Pike, but no major concerns with this parcel right here being commercial.
Okay, any more other comment or question regarding this zoning case? We're now ready for item F, ordinance 73, 2024-25. Mr. Tyndall.
This is case Z17, 2025, from the Planning Commission. Application of Diane Clevenger Pinkstaff. This is 1.08 acres, currently zoned R1 Single Family Residential District, requesting to go to R3 Three-Family Residential District. It is not an extension of the R3. The property fronts Fantasy Lane, approximately 325 feet north of Fantasy Lane and Candlewood Court, and off Old Russellville Pike over there. It is currently a single-family residential home site. This is in Council Ward number 10. It's in the St. Bethlehem planning area. The applicant's statement is to split the property for better use of the property and give more dense residential development. And here's the zoning map of the area. You can see there's R1A and R1 in the area. There's a little R6 across the street. That was a development done several years ago. Here's Fantasy Lane as you approach the property. It's an older road with no shoulders or curb. And there's the property in question on the driveway. Another angle of the property. And across the street. Department comments, Gas and Water said possible water main upgrades would be required. Sidewalk would be required per the R3 zoning along the Fantasy Lane frontage. Clarksville Department of Electricity, coordinate with CDE relative to possible line relocation or easements needed. No other comments or concerns, and the school system listed their capacities at the nearby schools. Historic estimates would be 9 units. Good opportunity to pause there. R3 floats between small single-family lots of about 30 feet wide, or you can do a triplex if you have 90 feet. So depending on the size of the lot and the width of the lot, you can range it between small single-family lots to several triplexes. The max density we figure for this acreage, if it were developed, would be 9 units. It's in the suburban neighborhood designation. Staff recommends disapproval. This request is not consistent with the overall goals and objectives of the adopted Clarksville-Montgomery County Comprehensive Plan. Increases in residential density are most appropriate at the outer edges of existing neighborhoods as transitions and buffers to more intense uses. Residential zone changes internal to an existing developed subdivision should be more gradual by nature. The proposed zone change from R1 to R3 reduces the minimum lot size from 15,000 square feet to 3,500 square feet, and the lot width from 90 to 30 square feet for single family. R3 also permits duplexes and triplexes. This would not be consistent with the overall pattern for the area. No environmental issues were identified relative to this parcel, and the Planning Commission also recommended disapproval.
Thank you, Mr. Tindall. Councilman Streetman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. This is in the Ward 10 area, and as you can see from the map, just as we stated on an earlier one, this is primarily an R1 area. While you do have R1A across the street, R1A is one step. This is an even more drastic step than what we talked about earlier when you're talking about going 4 zoning classes from R1 to R3, and even further in that, as he stated, that not only would it open the opportunity for additional single-family housing, it's also gives you the opportunity to have duplexes and triplexes, which are nowhere in the area on there. I am absolutely against this, just as I was against the other, and there were speakers there that spoke against this. So I ask you, as the representative for that area, to please vote against this zoning request. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment or question?
Can I add one more
sure.
thing? I am so sorry. This was one also where, as was mentioned, that it was a disapproval from the staff and a disapproval from the RPC committee. This was another one where it was unanimously voted for disapproval.
Okay, any more comment or question? Mr. Tindall.
I believe that's our final case this month. Thank you.
Okay, concludes your report. We're ready for the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the consent agenda.
All items in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the council may request that an item be removed for separate consideration under the appropriate committee report. Ordinance 55, 2024-25, second reading. An ordinance accepting the donation of certain real property from the Main Street Investments Tennessee Group property to the city of Clarksville for the purpose of a sewer pump station. Ordinance 57, 2024-25, second reading. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Rita Home Builders for a zone change on property fronting on the north frontage of Airport Road, 155 plus or minus feet east of the eastern intersection of Airport Road and Tandy Drive, from R4 Multiple Family Residential District to R2A Single Family Residential District. Ordinance 58, 2024-25, second reading. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Infinity Investment for a zone change on a parcel located at the southeast corner of Hillsborough Road and Binks Drive from R1 Single Family Residential District to R6 Single Family Residential District. Ordinance 59, 2024-25, second reading. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Mike Greenfield for a zone change on a tract of land south of the Ashland City Road and Chesterfield Drive intersection from C5 Highway and Arterial Commercial District and R4 Multiple Family Residential District to M1 Light Industrial District. Ordinance 61, 2024-25, second reading. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of RL Home for a zone change on property south of Britton Springs Road, east of Center Road from RM1 Single Family Mobile Home Residential District to R4 Multiple Family Residential District. Resolution 47, 2024-25, a resolution approving appointments to the Board of Equalization, Human Relations Commission, Public Building Authority, and the Senior Center Board. Resolution 48, 2024-25, a resolution approving a certificate of compliance for sale of wine in a food store at Tennessee Butcher Company, LLC, doing business as New York Butcher Shop, located at 2720 Madison Street, Suite E. Resolution 49, 2024-25, a resolution approving a certificate of compliance for sale of wine in a food store at Twice Daily, number 49, located at 1820 Fort Campbell Boulevard. Resolution 50, 2024-25, a resolution approving a certificate of compliance for sale of wine in a food store at Twice Daily, number 69, located at 100 Alfred Thune. Resolution 51, 2024-25, a resolution approving a certificate of compliance for sale of wine in a food store at Twice Daily, number 33, located at 600 Rossview Road. Resolution 52, 2024-25, a resolution approving a certificate of compliance for sale of wine in a food store at Twice Daily, number 11, located at 2220 Madison Street. Resolution 53, 2024-25, a resolution approving a certificate of compliance for sale of wine in a food store at Honest Inc., doing business as Quick Stop, located at 630 Tiny Town Road, Suite 105, and the adoption of minutes from March 6, 2025.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members, the item that the clerk read regarding the zoning ordinance, I think it was item C maybe, that had to do with Hillsborough Road and Binks Drive, that's inadvertently put on the consent agenda. That was, as you recall, referred back to the Planning Commission last month. Anyone else wish to be recognized? Councilman McLaughlin, you're recognized on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. The link to the applications or the names for the board appointments is dead. There are no names there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll get that fixed. Any other member wish to be recognized on the consent agenda? Now ready for the Finance Committee report. Chairman Streetman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I keep turning the mic off and on so I don't make noise. Ordinance 54, 2024-25, first reading. An ordinance to amend the official code of the City of Clarksville, Title I, Administration, Officers, and Personnel, Chapter 9, City Court, Section 1-909-Reserve, to create a section relative to municipal court expunctions and fees. Both the Finance and the Public Safety Committees voted in favor of approval. What this is creating a $100 fee, which is allowed by Tennessee state law, for the municipal, the city court to be able to charge that, to be able to expunge any municipal violations, and that fee was calculated based off of the amount of time and employees that would be involved for the for the violation to be expunged. Thank you.
Any comment or question regarding this? Councilman Smith, you recognize.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this, based up on by the hour, how much they get paid an hour?
Is your mic on?
Is this based up on how much they get paid an hour? You know how y'all calculate this?
Yes, it is.
How much?
How
much
The
hour?
fee is $100.
I know it's $100, the fee to expunge a particular record. So how did, you said you calculated based upon how many people were, had to do something with this. Is this based up on the hour? How you come up with the $100?
Well, that was done by the city court clerk and the finance department, and it's based on the amount of labor and time, staff time required
Right.
to do the paperwork, file the paperwork, get it before the court. So there's no one hourly rate.
There's
It's
no
sort of a
hourly rate. They just
blending
come
of
up with
rate.
something? Oh, they just came up with a rate? Is that
Well,
what
no,
you-
well, there's a calculation. There's a madness behind the science, so.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering how to get to 100, because I know some of them are $90. They used to be $90 to expunge. You know, I don't know
Right.
if it depends on the charge, or I don't know, but anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see how we get to 100. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. I did speak with the court about this, and I know in general sessions or circuit court that fee is waived if the person is found not guilty or it's dismissed. Now, that is in state court. The state law that gave the authority on this to the city did not specify that. So if we could hear from the court about this, a little more explanation on that.
Okay. Mr. Griffith, our city court clerk, if you don't mind. Councilman Brown, if you'll ask the question.
So remember, my question was about the expungement if the charge had been dismissed. 'Cause that's what I've dealt with is, state court, but how the feelings about the charges that have been dismissed or.
I don't think we would charge for an expungement for a dismissed violation. However, I'm not sure that it qualifies. Simply because the enabling statute basically says that it refers to convictions. It doesn't refer to anything that was dismissed. And I don't know why we'd want one to be expunged if it was dismissed.
Well, if somebody's looking for a job that requires a certain clearance level, they're gonna look at whether they had been charged with anything. And then, if it's gonna come up as they had been charged, well, if it shows dismissed, some of them want to have that expunged, but then that may be something that the state legislature has to go back and add back in there to add that to it, that we can also expunge charges that have been dismissed.
That's true. The state would probably have to address that issue.
All right,
because-
amend that statute.
Right.
So, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Any
Yes,
more
sir.
comment regarding this ordinance? Chairman Streetman.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 63-20, nope, I apologize. Ordinance 62-2024-25, first reading, an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to conduct negotiations and to enter an agreement for purchase of a right-of-way and easements, or should negotiations fail, to pursue condemnation through use of eminent domain for acquisition of property for a public purpose for the city of Clarksville Needmore Road Improvement Project. The Finance Committee voted in favor of approval. Mayor, would you like to cover this one?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. This ordinance will allow the city to enter into negotiations, as the caption reads, while we are continuing the finer points of the purchase of the Speedway property. This deals directly with acquiring right-of-way from that owner for the road project. We're trying to move these things concurrently, so should the purchase of the entire 83-acre tract fail, we are at least able to purchase the right-of-way to widen Needmore Road. So this is why this is before us. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering, I'm sorry. I was just wondering which way we were going. So we're going down towards the racetrack.
Well, this is specifically for the racetrack property.
Oh, okay, in that area. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comment or question? Chairman Streetman.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 63, 2024-25, first reading, an ordinance authorizing the city of Clarksville to convey real property contained within the public safety complex at Outlaw Field to Montgomery County, Tennessee for construction of an emergency medical service station. The Finance Committee recommended approval. When this land was originally given from the airport to the city of Clarksville, it was always the intent to include the emergency medical service station. This is essentially a cleanup to get that portion of the land in the Montgomery County name and out of the city's name.
Comments or questions? Chairman Streetman.
Ordinance 64, 2024-25, first reading. An ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an agreement and acquire property for a public purpose for roadway improvements and to swap and convey City of Clarksville property in exchange therefor. The Finance Committee voted in favor of approval. The reason for this is to improve the connection with Rollo and Rossview Road. As if any of you have ever traveled and had to turn on that road, it's a very sharp turn to turn onto there. So we're exchanging some property of ours with them in order to better align that area.
Comment or question? Chairman Streetman.
Resolution 45, 2024-25, a resolution authorizing Mayor Pitts to file with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development the City of Clarksville's 2025-2029 Consolidated Plan, 2025-2026 Annual Action Plan, and the 2025-2026 Application for Community Development Block Grant Funds and Home Investment Partnership Program Funds. Both the Finance and the Neighborhood and Community Services Committee voted in favor of approval of this, and with your permission, Mayor, I would like to turn this item over to the Chair of the Neighborhood and Community Services Committee.
Chairman Shekinah, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the public's understanding, a little bit of understanding on this, for the Clarksville Neighborhood and Community Services, we have a consolidated 5-year plan, beginning with 2025 through 2029. And we estimate about $10.8 million in grants for community development block grants and home grants. So let's look at 2025 through 2026. Just talking about some of those numbers and what those grants going to do for the city in this consolidated plan. So we have 162,000 projected for homelessness prevention and services. We have about 740,000 that's projected to rehabilitate 34 homes, and then we have 600,000 that's going to be earmarked for rental assistance for about 115 families or households. We also have $2.5 million for a new home construction, for transitional units, and for home buyers assistance. And then lastly, we're looking at about $270,000 for the program administration and compliance. Thank you, Mayor.
Chairman Streetman.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mayor. I would also like to just add on there how grateful I am to the community and the Neighborhood and Community Services Department, both the director of Miss Michelle Austin and her amazing staff for everything that you do. As we all heard from the list that was on there of the different ones that they're trying to help, this is a department where everything they're doing is affecting those that are in need, and they've had a lot on them in the last year plus, with the tornado that hit in December of 2023 to the recent flooding that we've had. So without a doubt, thank you to your entire department for all that you do and everyone that you're trying to help through all the work.
You're recognized.
Okay, next up, we have Resolution 46, 2024-25, a resolution requesting the Regional Planning Commission to study the Clarksville zoning ordinance, subchapter 11.9, violations, regarding penalties for violations thereof, and return an ordinance for consideration by the Clarksville City Council. The Finance Committee recommended approval, and Mayor, with your permission, I would like to turn this explanation over to the Chair chair of our Restoring Clarksville Initiative Task Force, as this is where this has, this resolution coming before us has come out of.
Councilman McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Streetman and Mayor Pitts. So, a lot of people know what we're trying to do with the Restoring Clarksville Initiative, but in order for it to be successful, we're having to look at some of our codes. Specifically, the majority of them lean heavy on the building and code side. And this is one thing that we can't do outside of the Planning Commission. And we have met with the city court clerk and the city judge, Justin Crosby and I did, and it was determined that we do have, under our law, the ability to fine somebody $50 a day for being out of compliance with the property maintenance code, but we cannot, on a city council level, just change it. We have to send it to the Planning Commission for them to work with Mr. Crosby to get that approved so that we as a body can put that in place. Some of the examples or reasons for that is, usually if somebody gets pulled over for speeding or traffic violation and they get a ticket, it's immediate. On a property maintenance code situation, the codes enforcement officers try to work with the property owners and give them time, as long as they're making progress, to come within compliance. There's a lot of admin time and follow-up time, et cetera, that is used in that process. Only after everything is exhausted, then they go to city court. And so the judge has the ability to implement the $50 fine per day only if we can route it through the proper code, which is the zoning code. So we're just asking for your support on this. In the next few months, you'll see me bring forward other changes to codes that will help with the process of improving the appearance of our city and especially our legacy neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Everybody doesn't know what this Restore Task Force or whatever y'all call it to look at these properties in Clarksville that you all are going out to check on, to see what's condemned, what needs to be restored, who's in violation, and all of these things. I just think that this is going to put a burden on some of these homeowners who's already going through a lot of penalties, can't even get roofs fixed on their homes. I don't think we need to be trying to cause havoc in these neighborhoods of people who cannot afford to pay these penalties or to be harassed about their properties. There are people who are heirs, meaning more than one own the property. And if we go out and upset owners, cause them to get in an uproar, like things happened some years ago where a lot of the properties were considered dilapidated or condemned. And it caused the uproar in this community where we got together and we fought back against this because all of these different neighborhoods were considered dilapidated, blighted. I would use that term, that's what was used then. And so we don't want this to get into a battle with the city and the community citizens who own properties. We have to be careful with going out forcing things just because we see somebody's property dilapidated. Maybe somebody just died, or the family member lives in another state, and we've had this to happen. And so I'm not trying to say anything negative, but I just want to make it clear that everybody doesn't know about this task force that's going out. And so I made a suggestion that we start offering help. I asked the mayor, let's make a list. What can they do to help get this land cut without penalties and things? What can they do to help get their property fixed up? We need a list of things, of resources that can help these homeowners who may not be financially able to do these things. And I heard we got the resources from Community Housing and Development. I think that is really good. What Ward, I think he's Ward 11 said. I think that's really good. But we need to make sure that we don't go out and start conflict and problems with property owners because, that maybe their house is dilapidated. You don't know the situation. And I don't think we need to put another burden on the community for us, the owners of these homes. And that's just my spiel. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Okay, clarification. Building and codes doesn't automatically go out and cite somebody for a codes violation. The property maintenance code is city law that was adopted by the voting body of the city of Clarksville. It's a law that is enforced if there are issues that are within those means. Codes operators go out, they meet with the property owner. If they're out of town, they keep working until they find that property owner. If it is left to a group of errors, as was mentioned, they track all the errors down and something doesn't immediately happen where they get a fine. There was a house in my neighborhood, sat empty for 30 years, and finally the trust got settled and there's been resolution. Codes enforcement is compassionate. They want to work with people to make things right. And as was mentioned, we do have some funds for our legacy neighborhoods to help them make those improvements. And codes enforcement isn't a bully. They're not going out and saying, fix this or we're sending you to court. They only go to city court once they have exhausted all resources and if the property owner isn't willing to help come within compliance. A lot of cases when there's a report to codes for a property maintenance issue, that gets the people the help that they need to get their home fixed because there are funds available for, based on income for people. So this is not a big steamroller, we're gonna go tear stuff down and wreak havoc. This is very different from the previous initiative. There are examples of dilapidated structures in every city council ward in the city. As a matter of fact, 2 commercial buildings with the help of building codes were tore down at the owner's expense, and they were long-standing dilapidated structures that were haven for crime that wasted law enforcement resources, fire resources, etc., and that crime trickled into the neighborhoods. So that is a positive thing. They work with the owner took those down at their expense. So this is working with people to come to a solution to make our city look better, make people feel a bit better about where they live, and put them in touch with the resources that they need. This is just a mechanism that if it gets to city court and there's not movement, if this should pass, then the judge has the ability, if he feels like this person is not trying to help themselves get within compliance, that he may implement this. This is not a automatic. So clarification, it's not like you get a ticket for running a red light and you have to pay it or else or go to court. Our city employees are very gracious with people and work with them to come to a solution.
Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ward 2, for explaining that. And I just wanted to put this on the video. We heard this because I've gotten some calls from some of the citizens that said that this task force, what are they all about? And so if we're not going out there to cause conflict and problems with these homeowners, that's all right with me. I'm just looking out for my constituents and something I'm here to represent. It's my constituents who put me in office, so I just wanted to open that up so that they can hear this and we hear it from your mouth. So I have one more question. When does this go to the judge if they found that they have a penalty? How long? Well, how many days do they have?
They don't get a penalty. The judge will decide if they do or not, and the person gets their day in court.
I said how many days before this would go if there was a penalty found, ma'am?
Okay, let me reiterate what I've previously
if,
said.
I said if a penalty was found.
Let me reiterate what I previously said.
Just
only
answer
at
the question.
Hang on, she's answering your question.
Only at the point that all options have been exhausted and the property owner isn't working with the resources available in codes to come within compliance would it go to court for a hearing. There's not in 10 days, in 20 days, in 30 days. Like I mentioned, there was a case in my ward, 30 years. 30 years.
Yeah, but we didn't have the task force then.
It doesn't matter, we had building codes then.
Yeah, but
So,
they can't do everything.
This is a
Okay.
heightened effort to put people in touch with the resources that are available to make the improvements if they're on income, have an income issue, they can't do it. So there's no deadline, there's no time limit.
Okay.
As long as they're showing progress and working with codes to come in compliance.
As long as there's no immediate force up on these property owners. I mean, I might vote for this, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I want to make sure that people are treated right and not forced to do stuff that they cannot afford to do. That's what I want to make sure of.
Has a
And
previous
so that's,
speaker had
excuse
an
me, I'm
example
talking,
of how this has happened?
Okay, hang on a minute, hang on,
I'm
hang on.
talking.
Councilperson Smith, you have the floor.
Thank you. So, as I said, I just want to make sure that my citizens are aware that if they have a problem, they can contact me, and I will talk to the mayor, and we will make sure things run smoothly for you. If you receive a fine or anything, let me know, because I will be on it, and I will contact the mayor, who's the head. And we appreciate us trying to clean up this community. However, we don't want to do it in a unethical way. We want to do it where it's, it's help these people. Everybody don't have the money. We don't know what's going to happen in the United States. We don't know right now. But thank you, Mayor, for
All right.
allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Councilman Haywood, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had a few constituents reach out after the task force came out. They were excited about a few things. One of the things they asked me were about, they weren't sure about vehicles on roads. Is that something that the task force would, and building and codes?
So parking is twofold. If it is on a property, it's building codes. If it's on a street, it's the police department. And that's in the current parking ordinance.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any more comment or question? Chairman Streetman.
Mayor, I'm going to turn my mic off for the last time because that concludes my report for the night.
All right, thank you. Gas and Water Committee, Chairman McLaughlin, you're recognized.
I'll have a report on the 3rd.
Thank you. Neighborhood and Community Services Committee, Chairman Shekinah, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just want to put out also regarding the comprehensive plan for the Clarksville Neighborhood and Community Services. If you have questions, because I mentioned some numbers there. So if you have questions, you can call the office, and the number is 931-648-6133, or you can go online and you can go to clarksville, Tennessee.gov/713/consolidated-plans-reports. And I'll have a full report next week, Mayor, for my committee.
All right, thank you. Parks and Recreation Committee, Chairman Zacharias.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have a full report next week, but if you'll indulge me, I have some upcoming events with Parks and Rec that require registration that I would like people to hear about. So on April 12th, we've got Fit Fest at Liberty Park from 12 to 7. We have a Parks and Recreation focus group at the Crow Recreation Center from 6 to 7. A History Alive Civil War artillery demonstration at Fort Defiance from 11 to 12 or 1 to 2. You can register for one of those two sessions. And then the Greenway 8K on May 3rd from 9 to 12. Again, there are a bunch of other events coming up that you'll hear about next week, but these are the ones that require registration. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and go to ClarksvilleParksRec.com.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Chairman Lovato.
I'll have a full report next week, Mayor.
Thank you. Transportation, Streets, and Garage Committee, Chairman Smith.
April the 3rd.
All right, be here, be square. All right, our next item is public comments. Our code allows 3 people, 5 minutes each. If you wish to address the council, please come up, give us your name, and you have 5 minutes.
Hi, Ronnie Houghton, 676 Lawn Road. I come before you once again to bring a message to this body and to the city. For the past 5 months, I have been submitting reports to you and sharing those reports with multiple news media outlets. I was actually informed by one of those news media outlets that because I was the only house in my neighborhood that was flooding, they didn't want to report on this, even though that I explained the situation to them, that this involves multiple families spread over the entire city of Clarksville. I said that the issues with Davis Smith, Clarksville's street department director, misrepresented multiple families, including my own, during the October the 21st, 2024 drainage presentation, special work session, whereby David Smith used misinformation, use of deception, fabricated information, use of disinformation, manipulated the city council, the city mayor, and the public, David Smith has harmed the taxpayers of Clarksville as well as for misrepresenting their drainage issues. I do want to make you aware of something, of what the importance of one means. If it's one house that is flooding, that family deserves the same treatment as if it was 100 homes that were flooding. They deserve the same treatment, no matter whether it's a shack or a mansion. They deserve the attention and assets of the city to be behind them. So what is the importance of one? Let's say you are a member of the armed forces and they say one soldier was pinned down by enemy fire. They don't deserve attention of the military to back that soldier up. It's one soldier who was wounded in combat. They don't deserve or need medical attention. It was one soldier who was captured by enemy forces. That soldier doesn't deserve the full might of the U.S. military to go after them. This is the harm that is caused by the mentality of it's just one home flooding. During the past 5 months, going on almost 6 now, the reports that I have been submitting to you has proven time and time again that David Smith and the street department is faulty in their duties, and it was a direct attempt to hinder these families from receiving much needed improvements from the city's own infrastructure. During my investigations, I have determined that the street department has not been fulfilling their duties for more than a decade now. They have not been logging those drainage complaints. They have not been filing them into a system. They have not been taking corrective action where that's needed. The problem spans for at least 2 street department directors, one being David Smith and the other prior to him, David Shepard. That's pretty disturbing to find out. This is a department that's not been doing their job and the city is suffering because of it. Also because the street department hasn't been doing their job addressing and managing the city's drainage complaints, not taking corrective action where needed, not investigating these drainage issues as they arise, and not maintaining a logging and filing system for which the street department is tasked to do with. A new department may need to be created within the city itself to seriously start addressing these issues and taking these complaints seriously. I could spend all year writing these reports to you, but I am not going to do that. It takes an entire city department to do what I'm trying to do and accomplish, and I am not capable of doing what a department is supposed to be doing. Change must happen in order to get out of this ridiculous and costly cycle Clarksville has fallen into. The damage that is caused to life and property by negligence is enormous. Clarksville is bleeding uncontrollably from this. Like I said in one of my previous speeches, how many families does it take before the idea sets in that, wait a minute, there may be some legitimacy, and validity to what they're saying. During this endeavor, I have set upon about 5 months ago, has now accumulated 5 families strong. Yes, I found another family that was misrepresented by David Smith, and we 5 are going to be taking him to the Ethics Commission and filing it against him and holding him accountable for his actions. So it is one of my last things that I want to say is that a new department needs to be made specifically to address these concerns. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wish to address? You give us your name. Oh, this is public comment. Code allows for 2 more. If you would give us your name, sir, and you have 5 minutes.
My name is Philip Drew. I have a infection in my ears and stuff, so I can't hear. I could not hear anything that was said. So I'd like this man to come up and help me if you have any questions at the end, okay? Please. Okay. I have been a city councilman before in Ward 5, and it's a long time ago. I'm 80, going on 86 years old. Okay. I want to talk about what a few of our neighbors want is to clean up 419 Beasley Drive, Clarksville, Tennessee, 37042-5486. As the house is in need of repairs and a safety hazard, and mainly the backyard is full of trash, down tree limbs, logs, bars, even things that were used along the trains in the old days to keep the debris away from the wheels. The new owners use the property for work and storage outside, and they do not live there, and I haven't seen them. They might stay 1 or 2 nights, but they don't live there. I have been told another party has purchased the property also. The current owner is Lyonantheny, I don't know how to pronounce it. And then current second owner is Lyonkathyrynl. The property mailing address is 419 Beasley Drive. The other person who's told me she has purchased the property is Sue Fireball, and she, I'm not sure how to spell her last name correctly. She lives at 412 Beasley Drive, that is across the street from 419 Beasley Drive. Also, please note there are small children who live all around 419 Beasley Drive or close to it. And I know some of the long pipes, they're not like pipes, the electrical pipes, but pipes they use alongside of the old place. But the thing of it is, we'd like to get it cleaned up, and it's been, like Tim Chandler told me, he says it's been over 3 years, and nothing has been done to make it safe. And before that, during the summer, the kids get in there and they tear it up and make it more unsafe. Are there any questions?
Mr. Drew, this is comments, as you know, and not Q&A.
If he tells me, I'll be able to answer you, sir.
Well, there are no questions at this point. It's just public comment.
No questions, just public comments.
No questions, just public comments.
No questions.
No questions. We thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anyone else wish to address the council? Remember, we have, the code allows for 3 people, 5 minutes each, so you're number 3.
Yes, sir.
Give us your name and you have 5 minutes.
My name is John Carter, and basically I'm here today to let you know about something that I feel like God's put on my heart for this city, and that's to start a homeless shelter. I've been working with R4One Ministries for about 9 years now, and so one of the issues that we run into is that we have church services on Sunday and Tuesday, and then when we let them go, they've gone through the distractions and the beat downs of life, and then it's almost like we have to rebuild them when we get them back. And so this is an initiative to kind of help like get some sustainability with them and some support for these guys. I've been working with Michelle Alston and the Clarksville Neighborhood Community Services and the Homeless Coalition, and so she's been doing a great job, just so you know. And so there's a lot of us that's just working together to try to get this up and running. Right now, the name or the title for this shelter would be Pursuing Life Center. The idea is that if you decide that you really want to change, then we can help you, right? You make the choice to change, we'll help you. And so we have a website up if you're interested in more details. It's www.pursuinglifecenter.org. Also, let me see what else. We're currently looking for a building. We look to bed about 70 to 90 people. about 70 to 90 people, and if we have to stretch it, 110. Let me see, and let me see what else. Oh, and we'll be doing emergency sheltering and transitional sheltering. So that's all I got.
Thank you very much. We're now ready for mayor and council member comments. City member, Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. I know Mr. Drew can't hear me, but Building Codes has confirmed that they will go check that address tomorrow. And then I would just ask the council members to please wear purple next Thursday. The mayor is doing a proclamation for April month of the military child. The Garrison Command Sergeant Major will be here, and some children from the youth activities on Fort Campbell, and some school liaison officers. So it's one of our favorite times to celebrate the military children and what they do for our community and the impact of our service members. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Haywood.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to remind the community, I am doing a town hall with county commissioners in my area, District 17 to 18, Chris Rasnick and Ryan Gallant. It'll be the first joint one in my area. It's Monday, March 31st at 5 p.m. at Hazelwood. It's not just open for my area, so if you'd like to attend, I'll also have Mr. Smith there. He's so graciously said that he will attend. So, and then my next one, I've reached out to Mr. Norris from Region 3 TDOT. He will have some people attend, so look out for my time and date for that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Zacharias.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I saw at least one or two people among the attendees that wanted to address the council. I know we only have room for 3, but I would just like to ask you to stick around. I'd like to hear what you had to say. And if I could maybe put on Mr. Bittner's hat for a bit, just remember that if anybody chooses to join me, we will no longer be in a publicly noticed meeting, so we should not be talking about, we are in receive mode only. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? Councilman Chandler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I spent the biggest part of yesterday afternoon with Mr. Drew, and he's 100% right. I don't really know how to say this other than just be patient with him. He is a veteran, not only of the Army, but also of the Navy. And he was on this council for, if I'm not mistaken, at least 2 terms. And his heart is in the right place, and he has good intentions.
Well said. Anyone else? Okay, I have two things I want to address. One, I want to invite you to, when you leave here, if you have time, go to the Ford Ice Center where the annual Broom Ball tournament will be held. The street department will be holding a grudge rematch against the Montgomery County Highway Department. So be ready for that. And Fire Rescue will take on Gas and Water. Winner or loser buys lunch for the other department. Okay. But a good time will be had by all, and we promise a victory for the city regardless on the second game. And then secondly, I want to recognize John Hilborn. John is leaving us after several years. John has done an outstanding job as project manager in our municipal properties department. John, on behalf of the city and the city council, thank you. If you would please stand so we can give you a round of applause. John, it's not too late. April 11th is your last day. It is not too late to recant your resignation. All right, we'll talk about it. All right. Nothing else? We stand adjourned. We'll be back at the City Council chambers next Thursday at 6 p.m.